There was a saying in our family that my mother often repeated. You can't have everything. Matilda Annie Higgs came to Lark R1se fresh from training college, with all the latest educational ideas, keen on reform, wanting to be a friend as well as a teacher to her charges. But they scented weakness and regularly reduced her to tears. She had no idea there were such children like this anywhere.
Miss Higgs! Is that a wig?
To her, they were little savages. Miss Higgs was carried home, never to be seen again. So, a crisis at the school meant that the class were in need of a teacher.
That poor young woman. Her only wish was to educate you, and look what you have done to her. The rector will be on his way to reprimand you, and then you will shudder, as you deserve to. When I sat where you are, we were glad to have an education. There weren't always a school here, you know. Children given learning. Can't you see how marvellous that is? Numbers and letters and stories. These things are precious.
Tell us one of your stories, Ma.
I ain't here to tell you stories. I'm here to tell you how you have behaved. What you have done to Miss Higgs.
Please, Ma.
Please, Mrs. Timmins.
Please, ma'am.
Please. Please, Mrs. Timmins. Please, Mrs. Timmins.
Oh, could they not simply send it to me, ma'am? We are, after all, a postal service.
When head office issues a summons, Thomas, we must all answer the call.
But I have no need of a new uniform, ma'am, which will be the same as my old uniform, which, in fact, is perfectly adequate since it has been properly cared for.
You are required to attend and sign for your new garments.
At Oxford, ma'am. Too big.
It could be good for you to go. You might return with a renewed appreciation of how fortunate we are to live in the wilderness, out of harm's way.
As ever, I must defer to your greater wisdom.
Laura, I am decided to be beautiful.
I'm glad to hear that being beautiful is something a girl can decide for herself.
What I mean is, I am to make an effort in the mirror, like, so that I can be as delicious as Miss Lane is. Nearly.
You make me sound like a sponge cake, Minnie.
Will you help me, Laura? Will you, please?
Of course I will. You're lovely as you are, Minnie.
I want to put powders on my face and tangle my hair just so.
Be careful every boy in the town isn't chasing you up the street, Minnie.
Oh, I don't want every boy.
You may borrow some of my powders, gals, for an experiment.
I will be delicious.
And then one cold winter night, the doctor, an old man of 80, stopped his dog cart at the inn gate and came in for hot brandy and with a tale to tell. He told how he had been over Lady Bridge many times at midnight, but this night his horse would not cross without urging. And then there she was, the lady, dressed in white and riding a white horse. It looked like it was made of smoke. When I was your age, I used to ask myself, what is a story? Well, isn't it like a magic spell, taking us away someplace else? And where do stories come from? Why do we tell them to each other?
Because they're strange
Perhaps, sometimes. I always did like ghost stories. But don't we tell stories because they help us to understand each other?
I just like the adventure of them.
So do I, Frank. What? Never mind all my talking. What you want to know is what happened.
Thomas Brown. I never seen you in here before on a Wednesday.
On my way back from Oxford, thought I might pause for a beverage, some rest.
How was the big city?
Something about city folk, those men, postmen, that is pompous.
If you're in the mood for saying why, I'm in the mood for listening.
They laughed at me.
What cause have they to laugh at you?
My working conditions, primitive, they called it, exploited. No more than a lapdog of my mistress. Do they not know that I am a servant of Her Majesty?
A man's working conditions are a measure of his self-respect, what he feels he is worth. Those Oxford postmen, they know their rights.
I know you for what you are, Robert Timmins. A radical. Thomas Paine, workers' rights. You would have us all living in the manor and our squire on the lane with a begging bowl.
They seem to have gotten under your skin, Thomas. Everyone knows you're a man who honours the old ways, but perhaps that bothers you more than you care to admit. Too disturbed to go home? Too rattled to even discuss the matter?
The day I need your opinion on my working affairs, political beliefs, or duty to the crown will be a sorry day in the life of Thomas Brown.
Those children, Robert. You could have had a pin drop.
I liked Matilda Higgs well enough. She seemed to have progressive ideas on education. The reason they bring these teachers in from outside is because they're qualified.
They hung on every word I said. I felt so cherished.
The idea of one of our own taking on the instruction of our young'uns is something well worth considering.
I thought perhaps tomorrow I might teach them that beautiful, antique way of handwriting that was taught to me by Miss Lowe.
You're thinking of going back into the school?
There won't be no replacement teacher for some days. It's only temporary.
Why not?
Robert, you are forever telling me how it feels when you work. That sense of purpose, that belonging. I know what you mean now.
You go and have your few days of being cherished.